of them. Could the state be secretly engineering a plot to have a compromise candidate succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta? Well, that's the big question. And also, what chances would such a candidate stand in next year's election? Now, on House of Cards, our senior political reporter Murimi Mwangi revisits recent Kenyatta moves that point that this likely strategy and seeks to explain why the nullification of the Building Bridges initiative could have exacerbated this.
It started with leaders from Luo Nyanza, led by former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, when they visited President Uhuru Kenyatta at State House, Nairobi. Before, Odinga's 2017 running mate Kalonzo Musyoka also paid Kenyatta a visit, accompanied by other top Ukambani leaders. On both occasions, Kenyatta keenly listening and taking notes, and giving hints that he may back an alternative candidate from the opposition in next year's polls other than his deputy William Ruto.
Kuna jamii tu mbili za Kenya ambazo zimetawala, labda ni nafasi ya jamii ingine pia kutawala.
Yet talk has been rife about the hunt for a compromise candidate among all anti-Ruto presidential hopefuls. Among those eyeing Kenyatta's nod are Odinga and One Kenya Alliance co-principals Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi and KANU chairman Gideon Moi. Moi is already in a coalition pact with Jubilee, while Kalonzo's Wiper Party is yet to formalize a coalition agreement with Jubilee beyond the June 2020 cooperation pact. On Thursday, key members of the ODM and Jubilee party leadership announced plans to formalize the Kenyatta-Odinga 2018 ceasefire deal into a coalition, with key Odinga allies banking on this formation to fly the 2022 presidential flag, while names of such technocrats as former United Nations Conference on Trade and Development Secretary General Muhisa Kitui and Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i have been floated in some quarters. Others are National Assembly Speaker Justin Muturi and Murang'a Governor Mwangi wa Iria, with such Kenyatta critics as former Cabinet Secretary Mwangi Kionjori and political strategist Jimmy Wanjigi, also building their 2022 political bases outside the establishment.
It's good to be a president in your last term because you can promise everybody anything and deliver nothing. So he can go to Nyanza, promise them, he can go to wherever, and then towards the end of next year, he'll say, this year he might say, you know, guys, this is what I really wanted, but you see, the courts did this, and this happened, so I was not able to do it, and since I ran out of time, please you guys sort yourselves out.
Definitely, the president has an interest in who is going to take over from him. Just like the previous president, he has an interest, and from where I sit, I think that is something that he's keeping close to his chest. I have not seen anything that indicates that he's preferring somebody so and so, so and so. They are just people imagining.
There has to be the issue of compromise. Everyone will be looking at, we've had Kalonzo Musyoka on the scene all the time. We've had Raila Odinga on the scene. We've had William Ruto now on the scene. We have had Uhuru Kenyatta. So the compromise candidate will be sought in terms of, can he protect the majority? Can he protect the large numbers?
In 2002, the late retired President Daniel Arap Moi attempted to manage his succession by bringing to KANU Odinga, who until then was a firebrand opposition politician and bitter critic of the KANU regime. But Moi's decision to pick Uhuru as his preferred successor saw his strategy boomerang with Odinga and other rebels, bolting out to back opposition candidate Mwai Kibaki. And perhaps with lessons from 2002, Kibaki steered clear of his succession politics, even as key technocrats in his office attempted to sell Mudavadi as the establishment's preferred candidate, before Uhuru eventually teamed up with Ruto to clinch the presidency. Analysts argue that with the next polls likely to be premised on a narrative of restoration of livelihoods and revival of the economy, any Kenyatta endorsement is likely to come with a baggage.
Nobody should think that Raila can be managed or games can be played and they get away with it. The whole nation is in the Raila hands. And I think that has been the guiding factor on how he behaves in politics. Sometimes he swallows his pride, he swallows this ambition for the sake of the nation. But 2022 is a defining moment.
I'm telling Raila, Kalonzo and the other characters that they feel that they should be endorsed by Uhuru, that Uhuru is the same person that handled Ruto the way he did. And the same way, if you expect so much from him, you look at the same treatment that Uhuru treated William.
Surprises and disappointments alike are a common aspect in the dirty game called politics, and with a smooth transition among Kenyatta's political priorities, interesting times lie ahead as the 2022 realignments continue. Murumi Mwangi, KTN News, in Nairobi.
So that story by Murimi Mwangi sort of encompasses what has been ongoing throughout the week. Talks of coalition, a compromise candidate, and of course, the struggle for the vote-rich Mount Kenya region. Let's delve deeper into this particular matter. Quite briefly, Manyasi, what do you read of the political realignments that are already happening? Talk over Jubilee ODM formation. I'm sure there are legal hurdles to it, but did this surprise you in any way?
Not at all. I have said many times that the happening also today, and I think even the Deputy President probably knew and envisioned what is happening today in the first term of their being in power. I say that because if you look at even his calculations, the nominations of Jubilee, his alliances within the party, everything was skewed in a way that it will serve him for the second term. And that's why even the president had a lot of difficult time managing Jubilee itself, because the DP had lined up his lieutenants literally almost everywhere. So he's a smart man who knew that in the second term he was going to expect that this was going to happen. However, in terms of how then things move forward, that's a different thing altogether. I think, and I'm on record saying that if the president had any intentions of stopping his deputy, then by the end of this year, he will have lost it in terms of his ability to actually control anything that happens after that. Any realignments that happen beyond December this year, the president will have almost zero control. I'm saying that also because there is also, unless, and I have not seen that happening, unless the president has a secret card of aligning government, because government also, in terms of the executive, he has the resources, he has access to security agencies, both the intelligence service and the police service, he has the armed forces. So I have not seen, for example, a deliberate attempt to line up those troops to support a certain direction of government. So if that does not happen, then he will lose grip and give up at some point. However, talking about Mount Kenya, and I have said this also many times, that Mount Kenya is a tricky region to bank on at this point in time. And it's a bit difficult to say which direction they will go because of just one thing. That if, for example, they will field no candidate in the next election, then what is the guarantee that the Mount Kenya Brigade will actually vote in the presidential race? Voting in the sense that either there will be two things. Either they will surprise all of us and vote overwhelmingly and vote for someone who is not from Mount Kenya because there's no history yet. Or number two, that there will be a lot of voter apathy, and therefore anybody who is banking on the tyranny of numbers then will have a challenge attaining the numbers because people will not have turned out in large numbers. Or three, people will turn out as normal. Those are the three scenarios. People will turn out as normal, but there will be a lot of voting at the lower level, but at the highest level, there will be either a lot of spoiled votes or things like that. And so the scenario right now, and that's why any presidential candidate will look at Mount Kenya very keenly. However, they will not put all their eggs into Mount Kenya. Otherwise, any outcome is possible.
Exactly. You can bank on that vote as it is right now. Gakuya, what's your take on this? First of all, it seems that there's no direct nomination for Deputy President William Ruto in UDA. Well, it's a Democratic Party going by that. But how do you respond to those who might have the opinion that the DP is sort of building his party on a short period of time, and it's all to do with euphoria? He is banking it on, building it on sinking sand this close to the election. Will UDA actually last the test of time, become a national party with a national outlook, and still battle it out with these formations come 2022?
Rogers, first and foremost, let us agree on one thing, that the flag bearers are who matters in political parties. A flag bearer, if the mighty of the masses are in him, those are the followers, those are the fellowship. And therefore, they just walk with the shepherd in whichever direction he will take. And that's how politics is. In this particular case, I would say, those who are in the support of Dr. William Ruto, inside Jubilee and outside, will move with him in whichever political party he will move to. Okay. Now that he has declared that he will be in contention under the banner of UDA, I am sure you will find majority of his supporters in that particular party. Having said that, this does not mean that that is the end of Jubilee, because Jubilee had greater roots, and it's a party which has taken this country for two spontaneous terms. Okay. And that tells you that actually it was a major party. And at the point in time that it's now moving now to merger, this tells you what? It tells you that the leadership of Jubilee have realized they are now weaker and cannot manage any election alone. And that's why at this particular juncture, they want to fill the gap that the Ruto is leaving behind. Because outright moving out of Ruto, we will leave this particular party almost a shell. And therefore, for these people, for the team to make sure that the party will not be seen as a shell after the walkout, then this is a good strategy at this point in time, that at least they'll be in a merger. And therefore, those vacuums, they are not going to be seen as major. But
what does ODM stand to gain? Why would I want to enter coalition with a shell, quote unquote?
I can tell you, the ODM has repeated twice and thrice that all what they want is what we call the warmth of system. And you have this one you have heard from, even from the brother to the former Prime Minister. He has been in the public saying only what they need is the system. So they believe that, in fact, with the system, everything will be in their favor. Okay. Well, because one thing is that, in fact, there is this perception that the ODM believes that they has been winning these elections. It's only that the system has been hoodwinking them. And which, personally, I would say, this is not the case. Okay. In that particular case, if they want to enjoy the system, good for them. All right. But what I would say, any arrangement of outcome of the next year's election is between God and the people of Kenya, because God, one, has to anoint, and I'm sure there is one who will be anointed amongst the whole team. Okay. And therefore, number two, I am a believer, and I believe that the God will communicate to Kenyans through their souls, and at the end of the day, they will get the best. Okay. In this particular case, I would say there will be this grouping of grand coalitions, which may work or not. Because surely, in this particular case of Jubilee, I am very, very much concerned on it, because I am finding a situation where even the head of state, because later, as of now, it tells you that you will not be able to make his own independent running mate from Mount Kenya, because then this coalition of Jubilee will dictate who will be either the running mate if they will decide that the ODM will be the presidential candidate. Right. And therefore, it will become a party issue. And in that particular case, it tells you the head of state still has a big say in who will be the running mate either in that particular coalition. And at the end of the day, it's only what will matter at the end of the day is this is a game of numbers, and it is very true that, in fact, banking with the Mount Kenya votes, it may be not this time round. I can assure you there will be a division.
Okay.
And this division will, yes, you cannot ignore the head of state that he will walk out with nothing. Still, at the end of the day, the head of state will walk out with some people. And because they are the direheads, which are between 10 to 50 or to 20%. But let me tell you, the rest of the might of Mount Kenya will move in one direction, which I would say, and I'm not going to take it where now, but the cards will come on the table where these battles within Mount Kenya region will come to cease.
Right.
And if battles like Muturi's battle and the rest of what we call Mount Kenya East and West, those are issues that we are going to cement and kill that particular coming up smoke.
All
and
right.
I'm telling you, the Mount Kenya will go united in where we expect it to be.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, Osido, I mean, we can't leave politics to politicians. You have to add your voice to this. How do you look at it? The politics of coalitions, because we've seen renewed energy in terms of cementing the way forward, 12 months to the general election. And also talk to me about this reciprocity aspect. Kalonzo mentioned, siwezi rudisha mkono kabla hajarudisha. You know, is he just talking tough, and at the end of the day he'll join the bandwagon? How do you envisage this as we conclude?
Let me start with that last one. Reciprocity. Now, this is the third time Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka is saying that same thing. Reason because Jesse, running for office of the President of the Republic of Kenya is not just something you say and you go to sleep. Other than the President, by virtue of government infrastructure, the only other individual in this country that can hold government to stand is the former Prime Minister. This is a gentleman who decides tomorrow there is Mandera Wednesday, and actually business is standstill. The towns are not moving. He decides that he's going to swear himself, and he actually goes ahead and does that. And one of the biggest challenges that Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka has in that reciprocal nature of his narrative is the fact that he missed the swearing-in ceremony of the people's president. That, in my view, and speaking it politically, is a tag that he will continue to carry. And you've heard even a lot of ODM lieutenants continuously saying, how do we trust somebody who was not there when the people's president was being sworn in? So the former vice president will have to come back to, hold a meeting with himself and decide where really he wants to stand. And if he is banking on the support of, say, the larger Western region for his presidential bid, I think he will have to continuously talk about why he missed and then begin, to carve a response that would be much more easier to get him win votes. Because if you look at how politics is done in this country, which therefore brings me to the second issue of alliances and all that, is purely about numbers. If you look at the 19.6 million that was declared by IEBC as registered voters in 2017, Central Kenya had about 2.193 and some few hundreds on top of it. Give it 2 million. Any serious candidate who wants to win the presidency will be very clear around building coalitions. And so you begin to look at where do these numbers come from. For me, and looking at the current president, I really empathize and sometimes sympathize with the deputy president. The history of the voting pattern of Mount Kenya is very clear, that they go to where their own is. And if the outsider, if I could use those words, Jesse, does not present a very good carrot to whip them and to bring them on board, rather to bait them, they'll do what Manyasi said, either abstain and say that thing is not ours. And we have seen history repeating itself. 2002, they did the same. 2013, it was almost similar to what TNA did. In 2017, we saw the same region voting for a president who ultimately was voted by almost just one part of the country. And that's the president we have today. Now, some people will say that, but he was standing with this deputy president. Where did the rain start beating these two people? So we move forward to how the House is comprised. How many members of Jubilee are in the National Assembly, Parliament? And how many members of Jubilee are in the Senate who will stand with the president today and how many of them will stand with the deputy president. We had a test here, Jesse, and the test was in the BBI process.
Okay.
We cannot continue to say that the deputy president has numbers of people who cannot stand with him until when his legs are being cut. And that, in my view, respectfully speaking, is going to play through how the citizens are going to vote.
All right.
Siasa haijaanza bado. It has not yet started.
Okay.
Because the president has not gone back to his people beyond the Sagana meetings that we see happening. He has not gone to campaign. We have not seen the Kiamas, calling their people back and saying, this is the path that we are going to follow. So it's something that we continue to look at, but from where I sit, Mount Kenya is going to surprise people.
Well, let's see how it all plays out, even as the general election draws closer. I'm sure Gakuyu and his compatriots will be taking a look at the timeline set by IEBC. April 9th, 2022, submission of names of nomination by parties of candidates. Well, we'll definitely continue monitoring the political developments. Gentlemen, many thanks for your time. Alex Manyasi, it's always a pleasure to have you with us right here on Morning Express, a governance expert. We're also joined by Kevin Osido, governance expert as well. Always a pleasure to have your input. And Gakuyu, James,